This is Joan with the Joan Jerkovich Show at 910 KINA Salina, bringing you innovative talk radio that surprises, entertains, and sometimes informs you. Today I'm here talking with two, I'm going to call them gentlemen because I want to get some good news from them, but I'd really like to call them computer geeks or computer nerds, and if you go on our video you're going to see they're both sitting here with their computers, which I don't usually have guests doing, so I think that the computer geek and the computer nerd titles are pretty fitting. But I don't really want to call them anything derogatory because they've got a lot of news to share. So I'm just going to, stroke their egos, call them brilliant, and I'm going to call them well-versed on today's subject, which is internet piracy. We want to talk about SOPA and PIPA. If you don't know, SOPA and PIPA are dead. Does anybody want to sing the Wicked Witch's Dead song for me here?
First, which one's the geek and which one's the nerd?
I think they go hand in hand.
Okay.
I think
which
of
do you want to
myself as a
be?
dork more than,
Well, we've got Matt
nerd.
here and we've got Tom, and I'm calling them again our experts. But would one of you guys want to jump in here? And for the people that maybe don't know what SOPA and PIPA are, and they're dead, tell us what they are.
Well, first off, I want to say they're not really dead. They've been pulled and tabled, so that bills are still out there. They could still appear, and we need to make sure that nobody sneaks in, tries to pass them. But they're both bills, very, very general, vague bills that have been introduced to Congress that are trying to prevent online piracy. But in doing so, they restrict items of free speech and just basically the web works today. It would change the whole content of everything you see on the web.
Well, and I have to say that part of what happened to get these bills pulled, and I agree with you, they're not dead. This issue is not going to go away. Was the big blackout? Who were the big players in the big internet blackout?
That was mostly, Wikipedia was probably the biggest, I would say. Wikipedia and Reddit, and then of course Google. Google obviously they blocked out their. They gave you a little bit of a taste.
Well, they just kind of had the black sign over there.
They certainly weren't going to go down for the day. Let everybody use Bing for one day. They wouldn't do that. But mostly Wikipedia and Reddit were the big ones that went down completely. There was a lot of talk of Google and Facebook, but that wasn't going to happen.
Well, I saw on a site that they said 75,000 websites took part in that protest, and it reached 162 million people. Is that a little exaggerated from what you guys follow?
Probably not.
Really?
It was probably it wasn't necessarily necessary. Some of the sites that I saw, only people that knew and understood the bill would have been visiting that site anyway. So there wasn't. They weren't really announcing it to anybody. But all better to at least. If there was anybody out there that didn't understand what the rights that they were about ready to lose, better just to make sure that they were informed.
This is something that both of you are so passionate about. I follow some of your blogging. Matt, you just put up a blog on the post about it. I follow a lot of, your Facebook page and some of the things you put up. Where's this passion come from? What are you really wanting this venue to tell people they need to know about this proposed legislation?
I think that the internet has changed things, and it offers so much opportunity. We could go on this show would go on for 3 hours if we went over everything that the internet allows us to do. And that was going to, it had the potential to absolutely break everything, and it would have ruined it. It would have ruined one of the greatest inventions in human history.
Now, and that's so broad, I try to get more specific for me, Matt or Tom. It would have ruined everything. Are you talking more like free speech? We have to take a look at the fact that what these bills are looking at is piracy of copyrighted materials, right?
Well, one of the reasons I'm so passionate about this is, I don't have TV at my house. I don't watch a lot of movies. I live online.
True computer geek, of course.
I have.
I guess you're the geek and Matt's the nerd.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes,
gotcha.
I have hundreds of friends. The only communication I've ever had with them are online, but I consider them really good friends. So it is a way of life. And what SOPA and PIPA and ACTA, what these would do is YouTube would go dark if they passed. Because say you took a video of your 3-year-old's birthday party, and in the background you had a painting and the radio playing. You would then have to find the song, credit the song, credit the artist who wrote the song, get their permission. You'd have to credit any artwork. And, you know, it's just...
And you have to pay for those
right.
things.
And
because as a movie producer, I know exactly what that's all about.
But
you don't use those materials or have those in your video or anywhere within sight or earshot with the music without paying for those copyrighted materials. But YouTube, you know, it's just kind of become a societal thing of communication, like you said. And you say this would just completely shut YouTube down.
right, because nobody can go through and manage everything. Even the funniest thing I saw during this whole thing is the author of SOPA on his website. In the background, he had a picture, and somebody actually took the time to track down the author of that picture and ask, okay, is this your picture? Yes, it is. Did he ask permission? No. Did he credit you on his website? No. Did he inform you that it was using? No. So the author of SOPA even broke SOPA on his own website, and it went down for most of a day why they found a different image to put up there. But, you know, if the guy that wrote the law can't even follow what he wrote, that shows how impossible it is for the internet to change that way.
Right, it's a huge task, and yet, you know, we've got this balancing act between people who do have monies and dollars, stockholders maybe to even, you know, answer to, that are sitting on the other side of the coin. So are we talking about, and you guys, you know, tell me here, if is it mostly the entertainment, the music, and the movie industry pushing for this?
Yes, yes, and mostly mostly a lot of the content creators, the musicians, they're not necessarily against it. A lot of them that are probably misinformed. You know, like we talked briefly before, it's not a whole lot different than me having a cassette and handing that and letting Tom play the cassette. Now, I mean, are the Salina Police Department going to come over and are they going to come arrest me and send me to jail for 50 years for handing over a cassette? And it's a little bit different. The big problem here is it's the middlemen. It's the middlemen that understand that if they can't control the delivery, then they're going to be out of jobs, and obviously they've got a lot of money, and so they're using it to lobby and flat out bribe. I mean, we heard the day after SOPA was essentially shelved, then that they flat out stated that, okay, well, sorry, we're not going to donate to any of your campaigns. I don't know how that isn't bribery. That sounds like as clear bribery as I could say. If you can flat out say, well, we were going to give you money if you passed a law that was in our best interest, but now that you're not, then we're not going to give you any money. And it
talks about controlling the lobbyists. You know, lobbyists are controlled by big money, and we've got big money players in this.
Yeah.
Now, you're calling those big money players middlemen?
Yeah, that's essentially what they are, because
they're the
creating
distributors.
Anything.
They're the ones trying to make a profit, make a buck off of what they've done.
Yeah, make it more than a buck. I mean, they make the majority of the money off of what the musicians are creating, and they understand that. And here's the problem: is that they're just fighting. They're fighting a losing battle unless they can pass something like this that basically breaks the way that people are choosing to communicate and choosing to share information and movies and music. You know, if you were to break that and you not allow it, then all of a sudden, you know, we can have our newspapers back, and we can have our VHS, even though the Motion Picture Association going backwards to that, they were actually in opposition to the VCR. I mean, that was one of their first things that they were saying, and I can't remember the gentleman's name that was heading the MPA at the time, but they were against the VCR, and it's.
So the two of you, as I look at you, obviously you're young, you're in this profession, your career is focusing around the internet, media, around computers. You know, this is the future, right? But who has the money but a lot of the past? A lot of these people who control a lot of the money aren't the startups so much as they're the people that really have the big bucks to go after it with, the lobbyists, etc. So is there anything more, Tom, you can comment on what Matt just said here?
Well, there's two things that get me. Most of these laws, they're making retroactive, which, you know, one example I like to point out is the TV show The Wonder Years. Up until, you know, 6 months ago, you couldn't find it on DVD, you couldn't find it anywhere, and it was because of music licensing. The record labels would not let them produce The Wonder Years on DVD until they contacted every agency with music in there, or they pulled the music from the program. So here's a show produced in what, the 80s and 90s. It was completely legal then, but now they're getting penalized for that. And the music was something that really drove the show, and they're having to change that. So the product that they're putting out now, I don't think is quite the product that it was. And WKRP in Cincinnati is another one that, you know, it's a show about a radio station. And every song in there, they either had to play a cover or they had to get permission from the artist or from the licensing agent to have in there when they released it on DVD. So, I mean, it's really kind of destroying some of our culture because it's changing it.
But now let me be the advocate for those people that did put the music in there. What they're looking for is a trickle-down stream of revenue, right? So I'm guessing if they're just coming to them and saying, hey, just give me the rights to put your DVD out here, they didn't, the only reason it got pulled, I'm guessing, is because they didn't come to an actual agreement where, okay, I'll put it out there and you get X percentage of the proceeds or the profits. Do you know further from that story you just said if that was the case?
I don't know. I read some articles about it, but a lot of it is they're working with the agencies. And the artists really, I don't think the artists see a lot of what's going on. I think it's more, like Matt said, the middlemen that are doing this brokering. I think if they had gone to the artists, I think a lot of artists would have been okay with it and not had a problem. Neil Gaiman is one example I really like to put out. He talked about what a struggle it was to get his producers and his underwriters and all these people to let him release American Gods. It's a book that he wrote for free on the internet for everybody to download it. And they pulled it from Amazon, and they pulled it from Borders, and they pulled it from all the big bookstores everywhere. So the only place you could buy a copy of this book was small bookstores. And
even though this was his own personal intellectual property, he had all these people above him that he'd worked with before that were trying to control this revenue source.
Exactly. And he
potential
said
revenue source.
It took him, he did it when it was still on the bestsellers list, and it took everything he could to get it pulled. And once he did that, he said the following 3 months, his revenue streams went up, the sales of all his books went up, and the sale of American Gods in small bookstores, which is the only place you could buy it, actually went up from the previous month when it was available on Amazon and Borders and all of these big name bookstores where you could get it. So, I mean, it shows that we live in a society where the difference between ownership and availability are happening. People want it to be available. They want to have access, but you've got to make a connection with them before they'll take ownership. And ownership is where people make their money. So you've got to really reach out to a consumer and say, this is why I'm a person, this is me, this is my art, support me, and make that connection. And until you do that, you're not going to sell anything, and people are going to pirate your stuff and not pay for it because they don't have that connection.
So Matt, you touched on what Tom's saying here a little bit too, because I think what he's saying is we're saying big money / middleman, but then you've got the indie artist. Do you feel the indie artists support the downturn of the SOPA and, you know, these big agencies trying to stop the piracy?
I don't want to speak for all.
Stop sharing, let's say.
I don't want to speak for all of them, but if they were smart, they would prefer that. Because, okay, if I'm a brand new artist and I don't have a fan base and I put out my album, am I really worried about 10 people stealing it? Or would I rather have 100,000 people share it and spread what I created? Of course, I would much rather have that than the, 15, 20 bucks I would have had off of selling it to 10 people. And we all also understand that, when you make things free, the more people are apt to jump on and use them. When we started making the Salina Post and Hayes Post and St. Joseph Post and all these different websites, if we would have blocked them and put up a paywall, we would have never got any adoption. So it's the same kind of thing for them, is that they've got to build a fan base.
And this is the billion-dollar industry called Facebook. That's
exactly.
how it grew. It grew totally grassroots.
There's far more options for spreading what you're creating if it's good. But that's the thing, is that now we allow the curators of good content to be the consumer instead of the exec that says, "Ooh, I know this person. I would, anymore." I mean, the music's so auto-tuned that you never know if anybody's any good or not. You go to a concert and you find out, oh my gosh, I really like this.
They really
I really like
sing.
this gal, and she can't sing a lick. But her friend her dad was a friend of one of the execs, and so they signed, and now she made a bunch of money off of crappy music. That's why we have so much crappy music.
So how, I totally get what you're saying, Matt, and I totally get what you're saying too, Tom, but how are we going to ever have a meeting of the minds? Because it's not going to go away. You know, you guys tell me what you think is going to happen to appease both sides of this issue.
It'll never go away?
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I'm going to read you something.
It's like Medicare. I mean, we're going to be arguing about that forever, too.
Well, exactly, exactly. You know, I just was reading on the Huffington Post business blog by Art Brodsky, and he says, you know, he essentially says, now you see why the victory laps, talking about the internet people who shot this down, need to be cut short. There are only so many times that an event of this magnitude can be organized, and only so many times that the extraordinary amount of public outrage can be harnessed, and only so many times dramatic actions can be used without losing their effectiveness. On the other hand, there is no limit to the amount of time industry lobbyists will keep coming back with more bills.
True.
So it's going to keep happening.
It's never going to stop, and that's why people need to. That's why I mean It goes back to the same. It goes back to politics in the sense.
It is political. It's completely political.
Campaign finance, and you know, if I want to be reelected, and this industry wants to give me money, and in effect they want something for that money, then people are more likely to do that. And until that problem's fixed, then this continues and will forever.
Okay, and here's something I have to ask the two of you. Does it almost frighten you that some of these politicians don't have a clue what these bills are even addressing?
Huh.
Come on,
Yeah.
I hit a chord with both of you. I know I hit a chord with both of you. And I've even seen, you know, people sitting there trying to say, and the politicians are like, oh, it's so over my head, I don't get it, you know, I don't know, I don't understand it. That gives me chills. What are we going to do about that? Who's leading the crusade? Who's educating these people on something that could have sweeping change to our society, to economics and capitalism, and yet, you know, what's happening with that? Are you guys scared about that? Come on, jump in here.
Well, the only way I notified it is with my pocketbook and letting people know, because I have artists that I absolutely love and I buy their stuff, and they even put it out on vinyl. I have a huge vinyl collection of modern music because that's what I want, and I really support these artists. And you know, you get the artists that are speaking out on this. I won't buy their albums. You know, I don't care that much about them. I might buy a single occasionally, but I'm not going to support somebody who is out there. And I think that's the only way we'll ever make a difference, is by supporting the people we believe in and reaffirming that connection.
But your little $5, $6, $7 at the movie theater to see the big blockbuster, they don't care.
$5, $6? Is that?
Yeah, I was
$8,
going to say
like 15, like 15 now?
if you get
Thankfully, my
popcorn
date,
and pop.
you can see my date's always paying for me, so that's good.
No, but it comes on through social media. You can see the outrage that people have against things. If you mistreat somebody, I mean, what, the American Airlines guitar thing, I love that. The guy wrote a song about how American Airlines crashed his guitar and then treated him horribly because of it when he was trying to get money for his guitar. That's how he made his living. There was outrage on the internet, and American Airlines came back and said, oh, okay, we'll pay for your guitar, and ended up, you know, really taking care of him. So, you know, through social media,
the damage was already done, really.
But through social media, through Twitter, through Facebook, through all these outlets, people finally saw what's going on, and they all spoke up, and the big businesses heard and backed down on their stance. And that's kind of what's going to happen, has to happen, is you need to support the groups. I look at Napster. Napster was what started this all. People got on there, they pirated whatever they want, there were no consequences. So the makers of Napster went back and came out with Spotify, which you now pay a monthly fee, and you have this digital content, and you have access to everything. You don't have any ownership, but you have access. And they've brokered a way that makes both the business, professional musicians happy, the artists themselves happy, and the consumer happy. And everybody gets along. And Spotify is really an amazing step in where the future of music and consumerism of music and things of that nature are going.
Well, Tom, we're going to have to head into a break here, but I'm so glad you brought up Napster, because that's part of our history. And you showed how that company that had this very issue put on their plate, making tons and tons of money, did go back to the table and figure out a way to do it where it works not only for the people concerned about the piracy of their copyrighted materials, but also for the consumer. So we're going to take this break, and I want you all to stay tuned because we have a lot more to talk about. I want to hear a little bit about ACTA, the Anti-Counterfeiting Trade Agreement, which is something that's more international. We could hear a little bit about the group Anonymous. There's just so much to talk about. Upload, Megaupload, and what happened with the Department of Justice with that. I'm afraid we're not going to have enough time for all we want to talk about on this show, so stay tuned. This is Joan with the Joan Jerkovich Show. Go to joanjerkovich.com for the video outtakes, podcasting, links to iTunes. And this is Joan Jerkovich Show on 910 KINA Salina. Oh, a little windy on that. How are we going to get all this in? We got 10 and 10 and 5.
Right. That was fun.
You guys just roll, and I knew you would because, you know, you're just... I thought that was great, though, that your reaction, because you were both just kind of to that one.
I don't know what we're going to do.
Yeah.
The politicians don't have a clue.
Well, we could make some comment,
scary.
but it isn't like it's ever going to happen.
Well,
I'd say vote for Ron Paul, and that, again, that isn't going to happen.
I'd say our politicians are never going to be informed.
No,
but,
they're not.
You know,
but the callous nature that so many of them kind of like, I don't need to know. Or my advisors will tell me. Or, you know, it's just, it's like, you know, if you're in there and trusted to do these things, you better dig deep. You know, it's just like I learned a lot just getting ready to talk to you guys because this isn't my realm. You know, I don't.
It's not.
No, I don't know what I am. That I'm kind of, multi-personality.
Hey, that works though. That works. I finally have my troll.
So what do we want to actually?
Oh my God.
You got your what?
Trolling
my
for
troll.
roles, maybe.
Okay, so
one
you're.
of our troll.
You know, we're still on video.
Our troll downtown. Yeah, our troll downtowns now.
What do we want to start back with? We want to start back with ACTA, Anonymous. We gotta talk about Anonymous. We gotta talk about hacking.
I can talk about my Facebook hack and
yeah, I want to hear about that.
How I got hacked and
yeah.
Man, I've been lucky so far.
It's right. Well, and it's just been that, but I'm so deep in it now. I don't even know how to get out. I'm waiting every day for my Facebook profile to just get, you know, hosed and somebody posting stuff up there.
Okay.
I'm living in my friend list, you know, but I have.
How long's your password?
Huh?
That's
yeah, I think
phrase.
It's 28.
Do you use phrase?
I use phrase with special characters, but it's like 28 or 29 something.
It's such a pain.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember the first time when I started learning about the security stuff, and I was like, every one of my passwords I went out and I was like, oh my God.
I know people in healthcare that have three or 4-letter passwords, and I'm just...
Oh, that's a whole subject in itself, you know. But see, you know, we're all kind of just ignorant and unaware. We're ignorant. A lot of the public are ignorant.
But that's part of why the fear's there, too. I wanted to talk on that. That's part of why the fear's there.
Right.
It's the, I don't understand it, so I'm scared of it.
Oh, the fear of this whole online piracy legislation.
Well, that and, you know, hackers as a whole. Everybody thinks hacker, and they think, oh, instantly this is somebody that's sitting in their parents' basement and they're trying to take my credit card information.
They're not?
That's not the case.
They're not?
No.
Okay, we're going in with that one, you guys. 'Cause did you watch The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo?
Yeah, I read the book.
Yeah, I've read it,
awesome.
and I've seen the movie, both versions, both the Swedish and the English.
It's crazy because you talk about your information, your personal information on the internet. Somebody has your name and the year you're born. They are within 4 digits. If they have your birthday and your name, they're within 4 digits of your social security number because of the way it was set up. And, you know, it's just a guessing procedure to figure out your social security number because they did them in order and they did them by region.
Yeah,
so,
and my age, they can figure my age somewhat too.
Right.
Yeah.
But if they know your name, where you were born, and the year you were born, social security number's not a problem.
Oh, jeez. Why haven't I been hacked yet then?
You don't have anything anybody wants. I mean, it's the same reason, you know, there's no viruses for Mac. There's viruses for Mac. But people have that. Nobody goes after Macs because corporate data is not on Macs. It's on PCs. That's what they want to get at. They want to get at the big money, big information dumps, and they're all hosted on PCs. So that's what viruses target.
Now, why are they on PCs and not Macs?
mostly cost, and it's just what
Cost.
people have used.
Have used
Just
forever.
have always
you know,
used their
ever used
PCs.
Microsoft Office, and now
Mhm.
to switch
Office
would be
standards.
to switch is obviously costly and time
Yeah,
consuming.
yeah, because I just got a Mac. I got so harassed by this guy and my sons that I had to get a Macintosh, and I'm telling you.
You didn't have to get one. I just like it because it's
No,
just
I
what
was,
I'm used to.
well, my computer was going out on me and I needed a new laptop. And I am telling you, I was trying to dink around on my husband's PC the other night and I'm just like, oh my gosh. I'm as much of a Mac snob as you guys.
I'm not a Mac snob. I
You're
hate
not?
Apple with a passion.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, no, no,
I
no,
absolutely love my Macintosh until it tells me I can't do something, and then it gets put in the corner and I pull it up PC. But I'll use a Mac for everyday use, but the minute I try and do something other than browse the web or check my email, I'm back to PC or Linux.
No, Linux,
Yeah.
that was the other one you mentioned. Now, why is that? You
Well,
just, the software availability or what?
Apple makes a premium product, but they have premium restrictions and premium vendors. They work with, 100 vendors, while
Yeah.
PCs and Linux work
That's
with
always what people
thousands.
say, yeah. And costly, the cost has to be factored in there because, all the programs I was already using and had even bought software for, such as my screenwriting Final Draft, I gotta buy it now for Mac. I can't load it on there, so, but I'm committed, I'm going with it. So, we're gonna go up for 10 minutes and,
Oh yeah, you talk about that. A friend of mine's writing a book, and she was trying to do it all without Microsoft Office. And she finally hits the final stages, and everybody you work with, you pretty much have to have Office, because that's what they require the document formats to be
I
in.
see.
So she got into her third draft, and then all her writer friends tell her, no, you got to go get Office because
What was she
that's the
writing
standard.
on? What was she writing on?
Open Office.
She was writing a book.
Microsoft.
She was trying to use like
She's
EPUB.
No, she was just writing a book, just drafts.
Oh, gotcha,
You know.
gotcha. She couldn't use docs.
She could use. Well, I don't know, something about it. I didn't get into it, but her publishers pretty
Yeah.
much said you have to go buy Office.
No,
It's kind of like the film people, they want to see that certain format that
Right.
comes up with those.
You got to have a
Particular
blank page,
programs.
a title page,
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
147.
And so much spacing and certain
Right.
fonts and everything else. So, okay, we're going to start back up here.
Troll's still gone.
Ah,
Yes. Go away, troll.
trolls.
Okay, here we go. Well, we're back, and this is Joan with the Joan Jerkovich Show. We're back talking again to our two computer nerds, computer geeks, Matt and Tom, both sitting here basically working on their computers, go figure, while I'm trying to talk to them. That's what kind of guys they are. And first of all, they said something in the break that really surprised me, and they said that hacker, computer hacker, isn't necessarily a bad word. Shocking to me.
Hacking comes from the 70s when people worked on mainframes. And a hacker was somebody who would code for hours, and it was called hacking because you were hacking at the keyboard. So a hacker is just somebody who sits down and works at something for hours and hours and hours.
But what about the negative connotation? We can't deny that there's truly a negative connotation to the word hacker.
That's because, again, we were talking before. It's the unknown. Everybody fears what they don't understand and what they don't, what they don't know, and they don't understand how people can, crack somebody's password or jump on somebody's Wi-Fi connection.
And you guys know all this stuff. I mean, don't you? You have some insider knowledge and information on how to be hackers.
Tom knows more than me.
So you just haven't know enough about the systems that you could do that.
Well, yeah. And there's people way smarter than me who write apps. I mean, we found out just
Hacker
the other
apps.
day that everybody's wireless router at home, there's a flaw in all the wireless routers, and you can crack somebody's wireless password in 10, 15 minutes.
Okay,
Pretty
now
much all of
does this kind of get into the line of illegal? Let's talk a little bit about Anonymous, the world's
I didn't
most
do
famous group of hacker anarchists. They've been put up as some of this work and things that they do as illegal. So
Well, I have a personal experience with Anonymous here recently. I had
Tell
a
us about
Facebook
that.
invite. I had a Facebook invite to a party at my house, and we invited my friends, like 20 some of them, And the next day we go and look at the post, and there's over 300 people, and there's all these people in California and France and Australia that are posting about our party and how they're going to get drunk and da-da-da-da-da.
Here in Salina, they're coming from France.
They're coming to my house, or they're why they can't make it because they're not going to hop on a plane, and it's really funny. But we had a closed invitation, and it got hacked, and I didn't know who these people were. So I friend all of them on Facebook, and now I think I have over 300 people involved in this group. And things started to come together, and I realized they are all part of this anonymous legion type thing. And it was really amazing after the Megaupload incident, when they took down the Megaupload, the Facebook and Twitter of all these people accounts just went crazy. They were posting links, and you would click on the link, and the link would direct you to a web page, and the web page would have where you are attacking FBI.gov and RIA.gov, and there would be a big button, and if you clicked fire, you were participating in the attack. That's how they coordinate. There were even people who clicked on
links. So a lot
links.
of anonymous people or unbeknownst people were involved in something just because these hackers are so savvy at putting these things together. They just make it as easy as a click and you're part of our group almost.
Right, and you can actually watch the website go down from these things. It has the number of requests sent, the number of replied to, and then failed, and you go to the website and it's down. But
so why would they target your Facebook, your little party here in Salina, Kansas?
Well, I mean, there's
you've got a reputation somehow.
Well, no, there's just a big part of the culture is trolling for lulz, LOLZ, where they get online.
What is that? What is LOLZ?
LOL, laugh out loud. Just funny.
Okay,
yeah.
they're okay. I got you. I thought that was something else.
No,
related
it's
specifically to hackers.
They're out there looking for things that are funny. Everybody talks about Rick Astley and Rick Roll. Have you ever heard of that term?
Have you met?
Rick rolling. I used to do that all the time.
Okay.
It's been on MTV. They Rick rolled the Macy's Day Parade, where you click on a link and somebody says, "This is really cool. Go click on it." And then there's Rick Astley singing "Never Gonna Give You Up," and it's just kind of funny.
Yeah, I think I do remember seeing that.
The Twilio application where you can call. You give out the number and you call them, and it's like, "Hey, call me," and then give somebody their number, and then they call the number, and it starts singing the Rick Astley song.
But
I remember seeing that and hearing about that.
It all goes back to the days of 4chan and dial-up.
But this is all kind of innocuous. This is kind of innocent stuff.
Well, yeah.
Most of it is.
Just spoofing and having fun. Yeah.
That's why everybody, everybody assumes that it's, some kid in his parents' basement, that doesn't ever come out and see the light of day, and he's goofing off and breaking into stuff and stealing people's credit cards and selling them. And of course, that has happened. That's what people, that's the generalization that's made for anybody that's hacking. And that's not normally the case. I mean, there's a lot of people that were probably hacking that ended up doing something extremely productive. A lot of the big time companies right now that are web application companies, Facebook and Twitter, a lot of those guys that built it, they were the first, some of their first experiences were in
the first
things.
Hackers.
And a lot of times, I don't think a lot of them are doing it. A lot of them, it's a curiosity. It's a, I wonder how this works. I wonder how this works. And with the computer and the internet, you have the ability to see if you know how it works. And when you crack it, you crack it. And a lot of people. I read a few of the books. Bill Gates
got to start doing blue boxes for hacking phone calls, or
that was Steve Jobs.
Or Steve Jobs and
Wozniak.
Yeah, they were making blue boxes and selling them online so that people could make long distance calls for free.
Yeah, phone
I met Steve Jobs
Jobs
in person.
Cool. Good job.
You'll have to go see my website on that, or my little blog I put up on that.
But yeah, it comes down to hackers for the most part are just looking for funny things on the web to post.
Yeah.
That's
but Anonymous isn't being so funny. They're fairly organized. Talk to us about what you know about this Anonymous, because honestly, this was a huge part of the SOPA and PIPA legislation.
Anonymous is an organization out there that looks at government, and you can put them up on YouTube, and they have Anonymous is calling out so-and-so, and it'd be a government or whatnot, saying this is wrong. And they're kind of a voice on the web saying, okay, what you're doing is wrong, we want to bring attention to it, and the way that they bring attention to it is through these hacks and for information mining. Some of these posts that I've seen just scare the heck out of me, and I don't even want to click on them because
That are put out by Anonymous?
On some of these anonymous people, because they're data mining and they are hacking and getting information about presidential stuff and Congress and all sorts of stuff along those lines, so that they can use to release to the public to help further their agenda. So basically it comes on, if you put something that Anonymous doesn't like, they will go after you.
Well, and we talk about, I was reading about the group Anonymous. Since 2008, they started wearing the mask of Guy Fawkes, which came from the graphic novel V for Vendetta, and they started doing that after the imprisonment of Julian Assange. I mean, they're beginning to see that they could be putting themselves at risk by some of this hacking and putting this information out there that they are. Did you know, though, that it's very interesting that one of the things they're trying to fight is this middleman that we've been talking about? But do you know who gets the proceeds from the Guy Fawkes mask?
It's actually...
Who owns it? Think about it.
I believe it's Fox, isn't it?
Warner Brothers.
There's a Warner Brothers?
Warner Brothers. And that's Warner Brothers, as in one of Hollywood's 6 biggest studios, a subsidiary of Time Warner, so that every one of those masks that the Anonymous people will wear, they get a piece of the cut. Is that ironic or what? You know, they're fighting the very people they're supporting by choosing this. And I understand that's international, that the people of Anonymous are international, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They're all over.
And the mask is internationally recognized as being part of that group?
Well, and you know, Guy Fawkes was a revolutionary. He tried to burn down the Parliament, and it failed, and he was arrested and tried. But and like you said, V for Vendetta came up with this mask, but he used it in some of his campaign stuff against the government back then. So you know, it's just a furtheration of that. It's just, what is it? It's the same stories told over and over again. We had Guy Fawkes then. Now we have Anonymous, who are trying to take down government. You know, but
that's essentially what the movie, you know,
the
movie which
which
was when, you know, V, the character V in the movie, he wore the Guy Fawkes mask, and you know, he was the anti-government revolutionary, and so it, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's kind of cool. I like the mask.
It's what we've got going on right here, and we're gonna have to jump back into another break. But I want to get back to our talk. Maybe we can talk some more about Megaupload. Maybe some more about what's happening internationally with some of this piracy. But this is Joan with the Joan Jerkovich Show. You're listening to 910 KINA Salina. Stay tuned. All right. Whoa, we're all over the board. You guys got me breathing hard.
Sorry.
No, I'm getting excited. I mean, it's cool information. I mean, it's like...
You said we could go on for days and days.
Yeah. So what, did we get to talk enough about hackers and
yeah.
What are we not getting, what are we not hitting? We've got 2 more segments. One's a bigger one than the smaller one. You got your notes there, Tom. You took
I just had it. One thing is some of the things that are going on now, like GoDaddy. So GoDaddy was a supporter of SOPA in the beginning, and they flipped halfway through
because of all the. That's how you can vote with your pocket. That's how voting with your pocket works.
Started to ban them.
That was actually what I.
But part of why GoDaddy was such a big deal is because there was actually a company out there who ran a site where they took comments about businesses. You know, hey, this contractor did great, hey, this contractor didn't. And I was reading an article about how somebody called in to GoDaddy and complained very loudly that there was negative information on them on this website, and they wanted to take it down. So GoDaddy was going to pull the site. And the engineer who was in charge of the site just happened to take that call while he was at lunch. And said, no, you can't, we do business, this site supports hundreds of thousands of businesses, you can't take it down just because one person complains. You know, but that's what SOPA is. If somebody complains about something, it's going to go down. And ACTA is even worse in that it puts the responsibilities on the ISPs, that if they get complaints about activity that is illegal or unwanted, if somebody speaks out or says something along those lines, the ISPs are going to block it. So, you know, if you have negative, like Megaupload, they never have to seize anything because the ISPs would just block access to it. So you're limiting your free speech, and Megaupload even gets me because most of their stuff, 90% of their business was legit.
Yeah. Businesses, and so now how do you get your files?
Yeah.
I mean, if you had legitimate files, now, Yeah, we can get into that here in a second.
Right.
Where do we want to start? Megaupload?
Yeah,
GoDaddy?
let's start with the takedown, I guess.
Oh,
a lot of people probably don't understand what Megaupload is, so we can say
I really
basically
like
what
to
it
get
is
into
and what
that.
the precedent sets, though, because it's troubling. I mean,
Now
there's a lot of people
they
that use
had to have
Dropbox.
been they
and-
had to have been able.
Or,
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's part of that too. They had to have been able to do this legally because the Justice Department was involved. What law were they acting under? Do you know?
I do not. I mean, they were hosting illegal content.
Oh, well,
But as
not
part of-
specific, because there is a law on the books for piracy, isn't there? Oh, jeez, I know I saw it. It's old. It's
Digital
been
Millennium
around.
Copyright Act of
Yeah.
1999
Yeah.
that has been amended
Okay.
so many times.
Okay, that could have been the one I was looking at.
When it was
Okay.
originally passed, it was illegal to
Okay.
burn a CD to MP3. I mean, that's how far we've come.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we're going to jump back into Megaupload. We need to talk about that.
Sure.
Yep. I can get into that too with the commenting system, since we actually had an issue
Right.
today.
Right.
I mean, that's essentially what's going on.
And
Yeah.
are you liable for what other people post on your stuff? And according to these new laws, you are.
Yeah, you're absolutely. And so that means that to be able to do this, you have to hire. You have to hire enough people. And in a sense now, when I started this thing on my own, I wouldn't have spent the money to hire somebody to handle moderating comments. So you just stopped a business now that has moved forward and was acquired and now is employing people specifically to do this operation. Those jobs are gone. So
because we're here at KINA and Post is huge with us. I want to jump into that because I think that brings it to home. We've got tons of followers who watch the Post, so this is really going to bring it, just as far as I can see right now.
and then we can branch that into.
And we need to get into. We definitely want to get into Megaupload.
Let's go to Dropbox first, since they're a little more reputable.
Right, right.
I don't want to go compare myself to that guy. That guy had a giant yacht and all this other cool stuff. I don't have any of that
You don't
stuff.
want to jump right from what you do at the Post here to
To somebody that got. I mean, they were over the top. I mean, some of that stuff. I mean, like the Cadillac, the pink Cadillac, and all these cars, and I'm like, I don't have any of that. If you want my Honda with the broken windshield, then you're more than welcome to come.
And the baby seat in the back.
Yeah, the baby seat in the back. You can't have that.
No, can't have that. So, okay, we're going back up for 10 minutes, Devin, okay? Ooh. A big thanks to my listeners for staying tuned in to the Joan Jerkovich Show here on 910 KINA. We're still here with our two guests, Matt and Tom, and we want to jump into talking a little bit about how some of the SOPA regulation, the possibility of this kind of regulation might even affect what Matt, who is of course our administrator with the Salina Post, does relative to comments on our blogs and on our posts.
Basically what the SOPA and PIPA, or however we want to pronounce PIPA, I've heard it PIPA.
Yeah.
Oh,
Anyway,
okay.
yeah, what they do is they make you moderate anything that goes up on the site. So there's no longer any commenting, any user interactivity, unless somebody moderates it first. Now, today, for example, we had some complaints as far as commenting goes, so we opened it up and we allowed people to talk about, if they want it to be gone. I mean, we can make that now, but in the future, nobody has a choice. I mean, that would be the government saying, no more, you can't do it. And so essentially we would shut it down. And to begin with, when I started the Post, then I wouldn't have done it. I mean, it shuts down.
So in other words, you're
entrepreneurship.
policing your own site, and your concern is the government making you police it in a way that
Yeah, and there's
has
already
become law.
those rules have already made it difficult. I mean, right now, if we go on there and we start removing comments, then we can be held accountable for that. Right now, we have to just let everybody else do it. Now, I implemented a little deal where we let people police themselves, and that makes it to where we're not in there. We're no longer the publisher. We're letting everybody else police themselves, and I feel like that's a reasonable solution to the problem. It handles it. People don't like something, they can take it down real easily. Now, some people, one in particular, I had a problem with that today, but anyway.
Yeah, you've been working on this during
Yeah,
this interview.
I caught my troll.
You caught your troll.
Yeah, I caught mine. I hope I don't get any more now.
A troll being someone that's putting
somebody that
comments maybe on the
somebody that should be working right now,
or is just
and
maybe blasting the comments
you know
under
who
different
you are. I'm
names.
talking to you.
Oh well, whoever they are, they really aren't going to listen to your show. So
Yeah,
It's kind of like the
knows?
fishing idea, where you're going
Yeah.
real slowly trying
Yeah.
to catch something. They're trying to catch somebody, and make them mad and make them react. And that's what a troll does across the web. And there's a lot of internet trolls that just say inflammatory things to make people react.
And Tom, you were talking during break, and I hope people pop over to the video because they're going to get just a little piece of stuff on the actual broadcast. Talk to us about what happened at GoDaddy.
Oh yeah, GoDaddy. I was reading some interviews, and there was a fella who, they hosted a site, I don't know if I can say the site name, but they had a site where you would review contractors, and you would say, hey, this contractor did a great job roofing my house, or this contractor, left holes in my roof, and you would react to that. And one day, he was out at lunch and his phone rang, and he normally doesn't answer his phone at lunch, but he picks it up this time, and it was GoDaddy saying that they had complaints about the content on his site, and they were going to pull his site because of these negative comments about what he was posting. And, it's a review site. If you don't feel that somebody did a good job, you're going to say that.
A lot of people use those.
And that's going to make a contractor mad that you gave them a bad review. Of course they're going to complain. But under these new laws, you have no choice. If somebody complains about a site, it's going to get pulled. And there's a big move from GoDaddy for a lot of sites because of this. And, I think that's part of why...
now, what is GoDaddy trying to do? What's this big move that GoDaddy's trying to make?
They're trying to save themselves now because they were originally supporters of SOPA.
Because originally they were getting all the bad press. People caught on to the fact that they were one of the big people against, or looking to put in this legislation that would shut a lot of these sites down.
And they changed their tune quickly. I mean, that's the fact is that's the way that the free market is set to work, and you vote with your wallet, and everybody did. Everybody started moving away from
moving out of GoDaddy.
And they changed their tune. And that's the way. I mean, that's the way everything should be handled, not by the government telling us, if you don't like something, then don't look at it. I mean, that's the thing that we were talking about with the commenting, and I feel like, if you don't like it, then don't look at it. I mean, if you got a problem with it,
go someplace
else. I mean, it's one of those things where you're trying
to... It is kind of a free-for-all, I have to say. It gets to be a free-for-all, that you get these people that you wonder, what are you doing, like sitting in your underwear all day, on your computer, did you take a bath in a week, because they just... And Matt, you're able to tell, you're able to see that these are some of the same people under different aliases putting... hate speech. A lot of times it's a lot of anti or negative or hate speech out there.
Yeah, and
not even a valid comment.
Yeah, and I will say, I feel like obviously that's not really productive and there's really no purpose for it. But again, it's free speech. And I feel like it's, it's not my job to be telling somebody what they can and can't say. And frankly, I feel like everybody's way too sensitive to everything. I mean,
well, and sometimes they believe what's on the internet as always being truth, where that contractor who was so upset about that, how does he know or she know that that maybe wasn't a competitor putting something negative who'd never even had any work done? That's the downside, too, of some of those, because I've had different business owners talk about the fact that, some of my competitors can come in and blast my business and put up a, and how do you refute that? I know there's actually been I've heard some ads going up where people say protect your image or whatever on computer sites.
And that's exactly why there will never be a dislike button on Facebook, is because of that very reason. It's a lot easier to wage a war against somebody putting negative stuff than it is positive. And a lot of websites like Facebook, they only have a like button because they want to discourage that as much as possible. They don't want you to go and dislike stuff.
That's a good point. I never even thought about that, but you're right. They don't have a dislike. YouTube has a thumbs up, thumbs down and stuff. So we want to, we don't have a whole lot of time in this segment, but we need to talk about Megaupload. What is Megaupload? What happened fairly recently here at the Department of Justice?
It's a file sharing website, and basically it was seized and taken offline.
They physically pulled the servers and the battery backups and everything out of the rack. But when you say,
and we're talking about a mega $1 million company, Mega.
Yes.
Tons and they just shut them down.
The problem here, and I don't want to justify saying that everything they were doing was valid and they should have been. I don't know enough about it. I'm not a lawyer, but for the dangerous part here is that there was no due process, no trial. Yanked somebody's business, and that's it. I mean, that's
and we don't know because we were talking on break. What the legal jurisdiction they were acting under to even do that. You guys didn't happen to know, but there's been some laws that have been put in place in the 1990s, late 90s, that have been revised and revised and revised, so who knows what we even have. But we assume the Department of Justice can't go in there unless they're acting legally.
Well, there's no question. Megaupload was, the way the site worked is you have a file that's too big to send on email. You upload it to Megaupload, you give the login to somebody else, they go download it. That's the way it worked. It was a business tool, you know, and businesses use it all the time. What happened was the piracy groups started using it, and they would upload a movie to Megaupload. So yes, Megaupload was hosting digital content, but you know they had a user
that was copyrighted.
That was copyrighted, but they had a user agreement saying you will not do this. So these users have violated their terms of agreement. It's not the way that they meant to do business according to their user agreements, but people did it anyhow.
But Megaupload wasn't monitoring that.
And the big question was SOPA.
It's like if you check the box that says I agree not to do that,
right.
Okay, you're in.
But the big question with SOPA and ACTA, and one of the reasons it really makes people scared is because it's who's responsible for that. Are you responsible for the users on your site, or are the users responsible for themselves? So who's at fault? Is Megaupload at fault for not policing themselves well enough, or are the users at fault for uploading bad content? Are the ISPs at fault for allowing their users to go to Megaupload when they know that there's illegal content? You know, it's where do you put the blame, and
where do you put the responsibility as well?
Well, part of the problem with Megaupload now, again, this is just from what I've read, but that there were emails that were found that basically where they were talking about they were pro stealing content, and so that's where they essentially.
So
that's the problem, and that's the other thing is that
owners were promoting it. Basically.
They just weren't doing things real intelligently. I mean, obviously they were doing it up to make money, but as far as doing, you know, there's other, and that's another problem here is that there are other people out there that offer similar services, and they're at risk now, and that's not. I mean, I use, you know,
like you talked about Dropbox.
Dropbox. I mean, that's an awesome service. It's such an awesome, cool.
You send it.
Yeah,
had to do that.
Yeah, and Dropbox is such an awesome service now. And you know, if I host something on there, if I put something up and I put something that was pirated, and I mean now they have to police every single thing that goes on there, and you're never going to be able to create a business. And I don't know how many people Dropbox employs right now, but I'd imagine that it would be bad if all those people lost their jobs.
Well, we're going to have to take a break, guys. We're going to jump back in because I think this issue we've just been talking about here, we need to come back to, which is who is actually going to be responsible for monitoring these things, the sites themselves or the users. So you're again listening to Joan at the Joan Jerkovich Show. You've got to again go to the video outtakes podcast, links to our iTunes and my blogs on joanjerkovich.com. We'll be right back. We're at 910 KINA Salina. Very much want to get back to this because I think this is the core. I think we've come all the way full circle to the core of this issue. Who is going to be responsible? And right now we're talking about, you know, enacting legislation and law to determine who that's going to be.
Well, and they've changed it.
Are we at the core of the issue? For some reason I feel like
we
maybe I'm
really
just
are,
getting it more.
it's changed. In the days of Napster and BitTorrent, you had a user. A user was hosting the files, and other users were pulling.
Right.
And I will never BitTorrent illegal stuff because there's one command, you go to a DOS prompt, you type netstat-n, it gives you the public IP address of every single person connected to that torrent. So you couple Googles later and you can tell what city they're in. You can sometimes even get them down to the block or the house, you know, if you have the right tracing software. So, you know, it's different with Megaupload and Rapid Share and some of the news group things and things like that because there is a central entity hosting it, but they're not responsible for the content. And that's what's getting everybody in trouble is they're saying, hey, we're not responsible for content. We're not going to police you. If you upload stuff, we're going to say, no, you can't do that. But then people do it anyhow.
Okay, I got a pretty good start for where we're at,
Cool.
so we'll go back. We've only got 5 minutes, so we won't have much time on this last one. Got that, Devin?
Yeah. Man, we're almost done.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Goes fast.
My brain's fried.
Yeah.
Let's go have a beer afterwards.
Hey, that sounds like a plan.
No,
I'm
totally on. I've had a crazy couple days.
Hang on.
I'm treating. You have to go back to work?
I think I have to go.
Oh.
I'll call my
Trivia.
boss. Yeah, I am too.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, trivia will be awesome tonight.
Yes.
Okay, we're ready to go.
I have so many
5 minutes.
$5 gift certificates I'm drinking for free.
Hey,
Where
have you
at?
got?
You can host me.
Have you
Where
gotten
you at?
yours yet? I think they're still waiting
No,
on
but
those.
I have old ones.
Yeah.
What
you're
bar are
lucky.
you talking about?
111 from
Yeah,
7 to
111.
8.
Yeah, that's
Tom
awesome.
Loudis does trivia.
Yeah.
You ought to come, man.
I should
It's fun.
come there. Yeah, that's kind of
It's
our
a blast.
hangout when we do go out, which is rare. We usually go to movies.
Yes, we play against the world's smartest man.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's what we always end up.
Is George there?
Randy Waite, he was a teacher over
Oh.
at Central, and he was actually on
Oh.
Jeopardy.
Oh, you're kidding me.
Yeah, it's a real surprise every time. It's like, oh, nobody missed one. I wonder who that
he's
was.
here.
Yeah.
Who knew that but him? Right.
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to head back for just a fast 5 minutes. Let me just take a minute to catch my thoughts.
I forget we're on camera.
I've been trying to keep an eye on it just to make sure.
Every once in a while I look over and like, oh, okay, Mike's in my face. Oops.
Yeah. See, I was like jumping in here and.
Okay, quiet for a minute, guys. And
Yeah.
then we'll jump back in. We'll let you chat. Okay, listeners, welcome back. This has been a pretty riveting interview with our two computer guys, Matt and Tom, and we're going to keep talking some more about who is actually supposed to be responsible for policing these issues. We just got into that before the break where we talked about, is it supposed to be the host site or is it supposed to be the user? And I want to ask you guys, don't I understand, isn't this kind of how YouTube has handled it? If someone comes up and says to them, hey, that's copyrighted material, because I mean, I've gone on trying to find maybe an artist with their new song or, you know, a movie clip or something, and you'll see the sign. So they've done a pretty good job of policing themselves.
That's why this is unnecessary. There's already a system in place. It handles it. Is it perfect? No. But I mean, it's like anything else. There's no such. I mean, I don't see how you handle anything perfectly. I don't think there's
Right,
really
it's
such
hard
thing.
to write legislation for, you know, for getting everyone to comply. But then, you know, we did talk a little bit about Megaupload, and they weren't necessarily complying, maybe. I mean, I think there's some information's been put out that maybe the people who were running the company were even, you know, promoting copyrighted material to go through their site.
Yeah.
To boost their revenues.
They were at least
So
looking
what are we
the
going
other
to do?
way.
That's
I mean,
the bad
what
thing,
are we
yeah.
going to do? I mean, you want to take people and say, okay, police yourselves, but you can't count on everyone to do that, to be reputable.
And that's
Give us some solutions.
what I think is at some point when all the middlemen are gone, and it's the content creators that are using different tools to deliver their product, their creation, and they're the ones that get paid for it, along with the people who create the delivery system.
But
Not
as a
somebody who
music-
just stands there and says, you know, that just because they've been there and they've had all this money all along and they handled the old ways. I mean, they could have just as easily helped deliver new forms, but it's the old way of business, and well, this is the way we do it, and we have no reason to change. And we see what happens is the old businesses die because they're unwilling to continue to move forward and progress, and that's why the textbook industry is going to die here pretty soon. The newspaper industries are dying.
Medical KU
They're
Med is all
gonna go
computer completely.
until they
no
fix,
textbooks.
until they offer what consumers want, which is quicker, faster, and cheaper. And if there's a way to do that and still turn a reasonable profit, I mean, everybody, you know, you got to make money or you're not going to spend time doing it, most likely.
Now let me say what I think, because I sort of disagree with you, because you're saying we need to get rid of the middleman, which would mean the indie musician is going to take his music that he created straight to the consumer, in a sense. There's always going to be a middleman. There's got to be a middleman. First of all, the artists don't want to be producers. They don't want to be distributors. They don't.
I'm not talking about those.
Okay.
I'm talking about the record industries that say, hey, we're going to give you $1 million right now, and we're gonna. It doesn't even matter if we go make $100 million off your record. Sorry, you signed up, and now we get all that money. So now we got $99 million, and we gave you $1 million. So good luck with that.
That's right.
Although,
right
you know,
there.
there's a lot of money into distributing relative to putting the word out, advertising, et cetera, et cetera,
Sure.
et cetera. There
Sure.
is. You know, it's not an easy fix. I gave Matt his say. Tom, we don't have much time.
Sorry, I'll make it
What's
real
your
quick.
fix? No, that's
just
okay. We
real
got a
quick.
couple minutes.
It's not about back in the day. You had a radio station. You had the #1 song in the country. It was going to sell 1 million records. Everybody knew what it was. Everybody was in the same group. We've divided up into so many small groups that have so many passions that are so divergent, and these people, you got to connect with them. You know, you can't come down and say, this is the content you will have. These are the songs you will listen to. These are the top 40. And, you know, the middleman needs to realize this and say, hey, we want to appeal to these groups. How do we make the connection? And that's how you sell your stuff. You can no longer come down from the mountain and say, you will buy the #1 song in the nation. You have to make that connection with the consumer. And until people get that mindset that there is no longer such a limited means. The internet is out there. It is so broad. It is so vast. There's so much out there that people, if they don't like you, they go someplace else and get nearly the same content.
In an instant.
Yeah.
In an instant.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And one thing I want to say real quick, most people don't steal. I mean, that's the thing in physical form or in digital form. Most people don't steal. If you make it easy for them, they're willing to pay for it. I stopped, when iTunes came around, I started buying my music instead of using Napster. I mean, before that, you had to go buy the CD, and I didn't want to have a CD. I wanted to have it on my
15
computer.
songs you didn't want.
Yeah, exactly. I want to get the song that I want, and I want to make it, you know,
Cool,
it's all about
guys.
that.
This has been such a wow interview. I really hope people don't forget to go to joanjerkovich.com. I have a feeling you're not going to get out of this studio for a little bit more. There's more that Matt and Pat wanted. I'm sorry, did I say your name wrong? Matt and Tom wanted to talk about. I'll edit that. And we want you to keep listening. It's the Joan Jerkovich Show, 9 a.m. Saturdays on 910 KINA Salina. I'll definitely edit that out. I'll make it work. Sorry.
It was like,
Matt,
hey, we were
Matt,
like a Saturday Night Live skit.
who the hell is your name? Matt and Pat. And usually I have your name right handy, but I just kind of threw it somewhere else
No, that's
because you
fine.
get going. But yeah, wow. Middleman. I just know so many artists though that don't want to mess with that part of it. They want to create,
Well,
but they
I'm
don't
not
want to do
talking
the
about
marketing.
producers, though.
But,
I'm talking about the middlemen. That do they really? I mean, let's say that anybody right now, do they want? I mean, the content creator should get the majority of the money.
Oh, I got you there, Matt. They don't.
And
You're
that's the problem
totally
because
right.
of the middleman. And
You're
it's not
totally
because
right.
of 100 people that
Right.
that downloaded it illegally across
Yeah.
the world,
Right.
and they made, you know. I mean,
And you
that's
know
the
what
thing
I think
the
it is? I'm going to
fractions
throw
are-
this out there because I think it is the people who are the creators are the artists. And artists are not business people. Guess what the middlemen are? They're the business people.
Exactly.
Their job is to negotiate a good deal. Their job is to look at their bottom line. You know, where the artist is just kind of, you know, and they get something for just creating and getting people to know their creation. You know, the old starving artist thing isn't far-fetched at
Well,
all. A
this
lot
is-
of them will create just to create.
This is a conversation we've been having forever. I mean, you look at Tom Petty. He went against the record company because he didn't think records should be $15-20. He thought they
He
should
wanted
be a
them to be more reasonable so more people could get them.
And then you have Lisa Loeb, who is the only independent artist to produce and market her own #1 single. You know, and I think we're going to see a lot more of that, is because you can, and you don't need the record to get the. It's free advertising on Facebook, on YouTube, on you put your stuff on Groove Shark, you put it on Pandora, it gets played, and you don't have to do anything. You don't have to spend a dime, and you're getting exposure out there. So it's crazy.
Yeah, it's the Louis
And you
C.K.
want that.
example.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
and you know, like
Who's that? Who's
Louis
that?
C.K. the comedian. He decided to put
Oh, I've
out
heard of him.
to
Yeah.
to produce.
Yeah.
He
Okay.
paid for the
Okay.
for production of his
Uh-huh.
stand-up,
Uh-huh.
and he put it out online and said, hey, you know, if you steal it, you steal it. But I feel like the majority of people will buy it. What did he make in 2 weeks? 2 million? 2 million? Sometimes it was either $1 million or 2 million.
Trent Reznor did the same thing.
And they make it, you know, they came out and said, I made way more money than I've ever made than I would have made if I would have agreed to do this with, you know, somebody
With
else
the
putting it
middleman
out.
taking, you know, 80% off
Yep,
the top.
exactly.
Exactly. That's a good point. Yeah. Fun. Well, I feel like we could have a follow-up, so let me know if there's anything breaking.
Yeah.
Who knows where we're going? Is everything just dead right now?
Wow.
Oh, it's not really dead. It's still going to be coming forward. All they did was shelve it until everybody cools off a little bit, and then they decide to come back with it.
They're
But
gonna piecemeal it into other stuff because, especially with this international treaty going on, I mean, it's already to the point where the UK is in lockdown, and the UK is going to be the first one to
I heard about
really
that.
think, because the government controls the internet, the government
Right.
controls the media, the government controls everything, and it's going to start there, and then it's going to come here the same way everything else seems to happen.
And that gets scary. That does get scary.
The U.S. is
relative to our constitutional rights.
The U.S. is one of the few nations in the world where the government does not control the internet.
It. Mm-hmm.
The internet infrastructure is controlled by most governments, and that's why everything here is such a big deal, because, you know, in the Netherlands, if they don't like what you do, they just kick you off.
Mm-hmm.
You don't do it anymore. In China, my favorite example is Tiananmen Square. China made a deal with Google, and now the American mirror of the Chinese Google is not that way. But it used to be when you went to Google China and you typed in Tiananmen Square, you would get pictures of gardens and families on vacation and, you know, landscapes. But when you typed it in here, you have the monk with a gun to his head, you have the monk sitting on fire, you have the tanks rolling over people. You know, so it's really, internet censorship is a way to control the people, and the U.S. is one of the few people where we have the freedom to go out and do whatever we want on the internet.
Which is,
it's changed the whole climate of the world to have the internet, when you think about it. I mean, you know, wasn't it Twitter that broke the Osama bin Laden
guy was right around there, and that's
I mean, he was twittering from the site.
It's such a powerful medium, and I feel
and
like
those people have to feel so oppressed. They come to see that they truly are oppressed when they see other things.
I say let the consumers decide. I mean, if you make a crappy product, then people will go to somewhere else. And if you offer an awesome one, and you allow to have a reasonable price on it, where you can make a reasonable amount of money, and then that's who's going to win, and that's who should win. I don't feel like you don't want the government deciding who wins and who loses. I can say without a doubt that when I first started, if I told you the laundry list of deals that I had to deal with the Salina Post, I mean, and the people in the community that absolutely were against it and hated it because they were happy with what they got. There's, they don't want. It's a disruption.
Crowd
don't disrupt.
Wanted to get their daily newspaper.
And those industries. I mean, they're all buddies, and people don't want to be.
They've all worked together for 30, 40 years. We've got people here that did 30, 40 years.
You disrupt it,
You're
and
the
again,
new guy on the block.
you disrupt what's there, and nobody likes change when it isn't in their favor.
And until you made a real raging success of it, you might have had a little bit of an uphill climb, like you said. That was your uphill climb.
Yeah.
But now you're kind of the poster child for, the new age, the future of this type of media.
Not me, but the web, but the site. I mean.
Well, yeah, I mean the site. I mean, it's like newspapers have to go to the web to sell their advertising and to keep current.
And they can
radio has to go to the web.
They can absolutely do it.
That's why I've taken with my show the whole video content on iTunes. Because I felt right away that, just to have hopefully people tuning in an hour on Saturday wasn't going to do it.
Well, yeah, and I think the smart newspapers, they're not dead. They're just going to have to change. And
Exactly.
some of the smart ones are already changing, and they understand that they provide a trust, and people trust that more than they're going to trust a website. And, a brand new website, because they don't know who's involved, they don't know, there's no reputation, and they're not dead, but they're just unwilling to. There's so many people that are unwilling to change, and those that do will win the battle.
But you know what? That generation, which could be a lot of my generation even, are getting older, and they're fading out. And there's going to be a point where the younger generation are willing, and not only willing, but wanting to try new things, wanting to embrace new technology. I mean, I didn't think I'd like reading off my Kindle. Now I wouldn't go anywhere without it. My daughter, who's in medical school at KU, she was about the 4th or 5th year of students that came in with no textbooks. 4 or so years prior to her, they tried this, and it's been so successful. The kids walk around with a little laptop, and they don't have any textbooks. They have all their lectures come across. She can come home and stay with us and basically see all her lectures online. There was even some resistance to people their age at that time. But you get those people that are finding out, and are we going to start into our elementary schools with, textbookless, schools? I mean, I don't know.
Well,
I think
what
as
they're doing
things
right
continue,
now with the iPad. I mean, the new
exactly.
iBook authored app, the application that came out the other day.
I saw that.
And again, it changes an industry that is awful and rips people off. Every 6 months or however long a semester is,
You mean the booksellers, the textbook
author,
companies, yeah.
the textbook industry,
Mm-hmm.
and even though they went along with it. I mean, they did. They ended up going along with the idea of using it, and that's good. I mean, it brings down the idea that now you don't have to pay $300 for a stupid book that you're going to use, and then in 6 months, you're going to sell it back at a quarter of the price, and then they're going to jack the price back up again, and then they change the book that has the exact same information. Now you got to buy a new one next year. Just call it a new
copyright edition.
Historically,
have changed the introduction maybe.
We've had the
and
same
let's talk
file.
about the environment too,
Okay.
cutting down all the trees, for our books, versus doing this wireless. So, and you were going to say.
I was going to say historically, if you look back.
What were you going to say, Pat?
the telephone. When
Yeah.
the telephone first came out,
Right.
you bought the hardware and the service was free.
Right.
And then we got to paying for the service, and nobody cared about what kind of hardware you had. The hardware went independent.
Mm-hmm.
When you did radio, you paid for the radio, and part of that radio purchase went to the stations, and then they decided to advertising is how they're going to fund. And the problem we have now is that people want to tie you into a box somehow, and nobody wants the box. They want the services out of the box, and they want to pay for the service. They don't care about the box that comes in. They want the service. And it's the same story over and over and over again.
Well, guys, thanks so much.
No problem.
Give it a thumbs up.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys, for coming in. Like I said, if we have any more hot new news, who knows when this will come? Yeah, who knows when it'll come up, or something new will come up, or
It'll happen. I mean, one of the nice things about the anonymous thing that I've got in are that nobody knows anybody. Nobody knows who anybody is. So all the information they put out to everybody. And I see some of the stuff that they're, you get hints of what they're planning.
Yeah,
and there's something really, they keep talking about it, big information release that they're getting stuff for. So there's going to be a big information drop coming up here sometime. And
Devin, didn't you say
March,
that they were going to target Facebook? The group Anonymous is looking to target Facebook? Is that just bogus?
No, that's
rumor?
somebody else.
It's a sect.
Facebook.
There's so many sects.
Yeah, that's
they
the
all
other
say
thing I
they're
was
a part of
Anybody
it.
can say you're with Anonymous, but I
Yeah,
don't.
that Upload, was scamming Anonymous. People are using their.
I forgot to talk about Blackout March.
Was there something come up?
Yes,
March?
yes,
Maybe we put it in a blog.
Okay, Blackout March is coming up, and the movement on the internet right now is to show the record industry and music industry and all these people that the consumers do matter and they do have a voice. Is for the month of March, you don't buy a single song off iTunes, you don't buy a single record, you don't buy a single movie. You just don't consume for a month, and as a message, and it's now starting to get pushed out there. It started a couple of weeks ago, and it's picking up movement. I see more and more people posting about it. But come March, it's going to be a big thing, I think.
Only thing is that we already do that.
Well, yeah.
What,
we already don't buy. I don't buy anything off iTunes.
Yeah,
I don't,
I was gonna say.
I don't care about ownership. I'd rather go and
just get content.
And we didn't talk about YouTube. You can be an employee on YouTube. If you got 100,000 hits, you're a YouTube employee, and you get a percentage of the advertising revenue that you create.
Yeah.
They've already offered me that.
Yeah.
They contacted us because my videos
You
have
get
started
enough.
getting enough hits that we're going to get some revenues off of it.
And
That's awesome.
You have
Plus,
enough.
plus we
awesome.
started out at 15 minutes, and so when we do an hour show, like this is going to be coming up as an hour video, we had to do 4
Break it up.
segments, and now we're all in one. It's
Well,
great.
if SOPA was here, you
Can we go
wouldn't.
over an hour, or
I'm sorry?
can we go over an hour on our YouTubes now, or just an hour?
You can be over tomorrow.
Okay.
Well, and you can cut it into multiple sections and have
Well,
part
we
one and
had to
part
do that,
two.
but it was a hassle because it didn't, it was just harder access for people on the web, and it's just nice to have one button. Matt knows all
Right.
about that. People have such a low attention span when they're surfing the net that, you give them 2 seconds, and if they need
That
one,
they're still
they're
using
gone.
Internet Explorer.
6.
You
Internet
had your
Explorer
chance the
6.
last interview you were in here to trash Explorer. Go ahead and
Yeah,
trash it
I
again.